The Terminator is a 1984 film directed by James Cameron starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, and Michael Biehn as a human soldier is sent from 2029 to 1984 to stop an almost indestructible cyborg killing machine. Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and I'm here for a little bit of a different kind of video, more of a straight movie review, a special video. It is 1984 month on the Mid-Level Media channel. I'm trying to watch as many 1984 films as I possibly can, because if you guys don't know, it's just one of the greatest years for film of all time. I've seen probably about 30 films, but I want to watch mostly movies I haven't seen, but I also wanted to jump into a couple that I have seen before, but don't feel like I've really given them their due credits. And definitely one of those movies is The Terminator. And I'm so glad I went back to revisit this. And I do have an interesting story with this movie, which I'm going to get to here in a second. But this is going to be not so much like a Blu-ray review, although I did watch this on Blu-ray, but more of just like a straight review and retrospective on what I would considered to be one of the greatest science fiction, action, horror, whatever you want to call this, slasher film of all time. This movie, God, I can't wait to get into it. But before I do that, guys, I want to ask, if you're not yet a subscriber to the Mid-Level Media channel, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button. Like I said, I do mostly physical media Blu-ray 4K content. I do reviews. I do physical media updates and reports every single Monday. I do Blu-ray hunting videos, collection hauls, live streams with other collectors, just tons of physical media content every single day on this channel. So definitely, hit the subscribe button, check me out. Also, be sure to like this video, guys. And I want everybody to comment. I want to know what you think about Terminator. Is this one of your favorite Terminator films? Do you actually think this is better than the Holy Grail Terminator 2? Let me know in that comment section below. I need to know it. And also turn on those bell notifications for all future videos. So yeah, guys, this is just going to be a very casual, I'm going to talk this out. I've got some notes written down here, but it's really just going to be me going off the cuff talking about this movie. This is a film that I will be straight up and honest with you guys, I did not see for the first time until about 3 years ago. And I know I get a lot of crap on this channel for not watching the classics and stuff. And yeah, I just watched The Terminator for the first time 3 years ago. And I'm going to explain myself because I saw every single sequel, except for Dark Fate, because I think I watched this right before Dark Fate. But I saw every single sequel to this franchise before I saw the original Terminator. And I'm going to explain why. I grew up loving Terminator 2. That was one of my all-time favorite movies. I watched the movie so many times. And I don't know why I jumped in at Terminator 2. It was just the one that was accessible to me. I think my aunt actually had that movie on Laserdisc, and that was probably the first time that I watched that. She was I guess a physical media collector back in the day. She had a good collection of Laserdiscs. So I think for the first time when I watched that movie, it was on Laserdisc. So I remember watching that at her house. I remember getting the VHS tape. I remember just watching it so many times as a kid. Loved the movie. I ate it up. I've watched that movie my whole life. I don't think that there's been 1 year that's gone by that I have not watched Terminator 2 or watched a scene from it or just something Terminator 2. It's one of my all-time, it's in my top 10 movies of all time. That movie is extremely special to me. But I had always heard the first one that Arnold's the villain. And for some reason, just growing up, I just never felt the need to see that. I never felt like I wanted to see that. I didn't think I wanted to see bad Arnold. I loved the good guy. I loved the hero T-800. I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger as the hero in Terminator 2. So for some reason, hearing that he was the villain of the first one, I was just never had any desire to go back and check that one out. So I always missed out on it. I watched Terminator 3, Salvation, Genesis, and then finally, I got the nerve to watch this movie right before Dark Fate came out. And I definitely kicked myself after because, my God, is this an incredible film that I cannot believe I went my entire life without checking out. But yeah, guys, this movie is Arnold. He is the bad guy front and center. So if you haven't seen this movie, if you only know good guy Arnold, this is a different kind of Terminator. This is a different kind of a T-800, but this movie's great, guys. And I honestly, I'm struggling right now. I'm really struggling because I just watched this again and I loved it even more on the rewatch. So this is the second time I've seen this. I loved it even more on the rewatch than I did the first time that I watched it 3 years ago. it is so great. I'm just learning to appreciate it more for some of the things that it does. So I don't know, like I said, I'm struggling in my mind. I don't think I could ever dethrone Terminator 2. It just means so much to me. I have such a hard time taking these movies that were such an important part of formulating my love for film as a child, and knocking those off my list when they've just been there for so long. I don't know. I can definitely see, I'm not prepared to say this is a better movie than Terminator 2, but I can definitely see a world, or a future rather, where maybe in about 10 years, I might like this movie better than Terminator 2. I don't know. There's things about this movie and elements that I definitely think are a little bit stronger than Terminator 2. And also, one thing I want to say is one of the reasons why I think all of the sequels to the Terminator franchise, with the exception of Terminator 2, have struggled is because that none of them even attempt to go back and try to recapture the magic of what made this film and this franchise so great. None of them even try to go back to the basics and do what this film did. They're all trying to chase the coattails and the success of Terminator 2, and they're trying to create the next Terminator 2 without going back and establishing the fundamentals of what made this franchise so great to begin with. And that is, they should really be going back and replicating what was done here first, and then expanding upon that. But nobody ever thinks to do that. They always want to jump straight in to creating the next Terminator 2 before they lay the proper groundwork. And I think if they tried to do not necessarily a remake, but just another Terminator film that was a little bit more grounded, a little bit more contained, a little bit more focused like this movie is, I think that they would succeed and bring some of these old school Terminator fans back. And make them happy. Because to be honest, I didn't hate Dark Fate. I thought Dark Fate was okay, but I know a lot of people were really turned off by the film, and it didn't make a lot of money, so that's very telling too. People just don't care about Terminator anymore. I think if you made a movie like this, they would definitely come back. So I've been rambling a lot about my history with Terminator and stuff. I guess at the end, I just love Terminator 2. That was my movie, and I watched some of the sequels and enjoyed some of them, but I'm now learning in adulthood to love and appreciate the Terminator. So one thing I'll say right off the top, this movie is a very different movie than the second Terminator. The second Terminator is action sci-fi, straight action sci-fi. There are some horror elements in there, especially with the T-1000, I would say for sure. But this movie is almost a straight up slasher horror film. I would even say that it is a slasher horror film. I would put it in the same category that you put a Nightmare on Elm Street, a Friday the 13th. I think it plays in that genre way more than it plays in the sci-fi action genre, even though there are definitely some great sci-fi action set pieces in this film. I think it definitely draws more inspiration from horror than it does action for sure. So much like Alien and Aliens, whereas Alien is more horror and then Aliens is more science fiction, but they're both kind of go together. This is definitely a similar situation, which James Cameron did both this one and Terminator 2, only did Alien. So it's interesting that he's a part of both of those, franchises. But anyway, yeah, straight up slasher. Arnold, the T-800, is Michael Myers. He is Jason Voorhees. I would even argue that he's even more terrifying because he does not wait until you're alone to attack you. He does not give a shit where you are. He will freaking rampage into a police station and kill everybody in sight just to get to you. You are not safe anywhere. He will attack you in public, at a club, in broad daylight. He does not care. He will knock on your doorstep in broad daylight and just shoot you and just walk straight into your house and shoot you and kill you on sight. He doesn't care. He doesn't wait till you're alone. So in that respect, I think he's even scarier than Michael Myers. I think he's even scarier than Jason. He's so awesome in this movie. I love Arnold in this movie. He is jacked. He is jacked in this movie, super jacked. He is so beefy and brute in this film. Definitely a lot more than he was in Terminator 2. He lost a little bit of that muscle mass, I think, in that 7-year period. But this is pumping iron Arnold. Like, he is just still beefy and jacked, and he is scary in this movie. That is the only way I can describe him. He doesn't say very much, but when he does say stuff, it's definitely impactful, and it definitely means something. I love it when the guy knocks on the door and he just kind of turns that "fuck you, asshole." Like, it's so great. It's so impactful. Arnold is perfect in this movie. Like, it's just so good in this film. So I love him in this movie, just like as a slasher icon. He definitely like is up here to me. Like, I would love If they made like 4 more of these types of movies in the 80s, like I wish that we had that. I just wish that we had that. I don't feel like you could get it anymore. Like if somebody tried to go back and do it now, maybe they could do it justice. I don't know. But I just wish that if I could do anything right now, guys, is just go back in time and tell them to make 4 more of these movies like they did Jason and Freddy, all the way up through part 5, and then maybe they could have made T2 like the part 6 or something. But that would have been awesome to have like 5 of these movies in the 80s. It would have been freaking spectacular. But yeah, so terrifying in this movie. I love Linda Hamilton in this movie. I love her in T2 also, but I do think in T2 that's like one of my flaws in that movie. She is a little bit too over dramatic, I think, in some of her scenes. It's not the character. Like, I think the character has every right to be over dramatic and have PTSD and all that stuff. It's just the performance. I don't necessarily buy it as much as I would like to, but I love her in this movie. You know, she's younger, she's more naive. It takes a little bit for her to, you know, believe what is going on in the situation that she's in. But once she does, like, she's all in it. I just like it. I like the arc of her being, you know, this waitress, and she's like, how am I going to be the mother of some great military leader in the future? And, you know, Michael Biehn has to try to convince her of that throughout the entire film. And I just love her in this film. I think she's super charming, super charismatic, and I'm just a big fan of her in this movie. I like the more innocent Sarah Connor, if you will, and just kind of seeing her slow evolution through this movie to where she ends up at the end of the film, I think is super cool. And Kyle Reese, Michael Biehn as Kyle Reese is awesome too. Like, he's really acting as the Arnold role. Like, I base everything off of what I know from T2. So when I talk about, I know that this movie established everything first. But when I talk about stuff, sometimes I'm talking about it in comparison to Terminator 2. So Michael Biehn is the protector in this movie, and I think he's badass. You know, especially considering the fact that he's not a cyborg, he's not a robot or anything. He's just a regular man that travels back through time and has to fight this unstoppable killing machine. So in that perspective, he's almost even more badass than Arnold is in Terminator 2, because at least Arnold was a cyborg when he was fighting the T-1000. So I think Michael Bihn's awesome in this movie. I love the chemistry between him and Linda Blair throughout this film. It does, the one flaw I will say in this movie is when they have to get together to have sex and conceive John Connor. It does feel a little bit forced, like they wouldn't do that in that situation. They just had to throw that in there because, you know, he was his father, and they had to have a way for her to get pregnant with John Connor at some point in the movie. So it feels a little bit forced, that romance, like right in the middle of it. But at the end of the day, it's not like a huge negative or anything. The movie itself, guys, is extremely focused. I love how focused this movie is. Like, it picks up like that. Like, it's just right away, right out the gate. Like, you're in the chase. He's after Sarah Connor. He's looking her name up in the phone book, knocking on people's doors, blowing them away. Linda Hamilton's introduced. Michael Biehn comes through, like, he has to save her. Like, all this stuff is like in the first 20 minutes of the movie, and then they're on the run for the Terminator. They get picked up by the police, the whole police station scene. This movie's incredibly well paced. It just moves until you get to that romance that's about, I'd say, about an hour and 10 minutes, and then it kind of slows down a little bit with the pacing, but then it picks right back up again into the last 30 minutes, which I think the last 30 minutes of this movie are incredible. I love it. And just going back into that horror, like, just the idea that, you know, you have the slasher villain, you know, chasing you, and you can't kill him, and you keep thinking he's dead, but then he comes back again. That happens several times in slasher movies, like, to the point where it's like almost, I'm pretty sure Child's Play drew inspiration from the Terminator, because there's a scene where the T-800 is on the ground with no legs, and he's crawling towards him like Chucky is. I believe in the first Child's Play movie, actually. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, guys, this is a straight up slasher movie, even to the point where a couple gets done having sex, and then he bursts in through there and kills both of them in the apartment. So it's like, it's straight up following the slasher rules. And I love it. It's absolutely phenomenal. It's such a small and focused story. But also it's set within like this world that just feels so massive and so expansive, this sci-fi universe. It's just, the world building in this film is absolutely off the charts, insane and awesome. But also, like, it never really indulges in that. It always feels super small and contained, and everything is just kind of happening around it. And you're always curious about what could be happening, like, in the future, and you always want to learn more. but it doesn't quite give you all the pieces there. And I think that that's part of what makes this one and Terminator 2 so great, is that you have this expansive sci-fi world that it doesn't ever really truly go into. It all takes place in the past, and you're just kind of learning about it through the characters. And I don't think it's as interesting, to be honest. Salvation was okay from what I remember. I've only seen it twice probably. But I don't think it's as interesting when you go into that sci-fi world and you have to live in that post-apocalyptic era. There's maybe ways to make it interesting, but they just haven't done it yet. So I like it when it's more grounded and it's in the past and the characters are coming back and they're kind of talking about it. Yeah, I love the look of this movie. It looks so great. It's very dark. Like pretty much the whole movie takes place at night. There's a couple of scenes in daytime. But yeah, James Cameron he knows how to direct a fucking movie. Like he's the man. Like this movie pretty much gave him his job doing Aliens, I'm pretty sure. And he did one movie before this. I think it was Piranha, but this is the one that really put him on the map as a science fiction director. And the guy can do no wrong. Look, he puts out crap 4K transfers with Terminator 2, and we all want him to get to work on the transfers for this. This needs a 4K desperately. The Blu-ray looked pretty good, but it needs a 4K desperately. So we all joke about Cameron. We want him to do his movies in 4K. We want True Lies and all that stuff. But the dude is a groundbreaking director. There will never be another James Cameron. The guy knows what he's doing. And, we can all make fun of him for Avatar 1 through 85 that he's getting ready to make, or 2 through 85. But they're going to be groundbreaking. They're going to change the game. They're going to, change film forever. We just can't see it now. Only James Cameron can, because he's just such a visionary director. So his direction in this movie is top notch, guys. It's such a great place for this universe and this story to start. I'm trying to think everything else I want to say about it. Brad Fiddel's score in this movie. Oh my God. I love the score in the second one, but this one is so cool. It's just so slick, and it just has that real like electronic, like synthwave vibe to it. I love everything about this score. I've been listening to it nonstop for like the past week. I love this score so much. There's an eeriness to it. There's a disorienting factor to it. Like you just kind of feel, you feel strange. You feel like you feel out of this world when you listen to this score, and it is so good. I just love this score. I love everything about it. The second one's great as well. It takes all of the same cues from this one, but it is more bombastic. It's larger. It's more orchestral in nature, but it's still great. They're both great. I love both the scores, but the score in this movie is so phenomenal. It just works so well for this particular film and this story. Again, I don't have too much bad to say about it, and I really don't want to I really don't want to knock a film down for its effects work and stuff like that, because it was the 80s. But what I will say here, guys, some of the effects work here are a little wonky and very dated, and I would kind of be curious and a little hesitant maybe to check them out in 4K. I don't know what that would look like, but they use stop motion in this, in particular some scenes with the T-800 when it sheds its skin, because there is a sequence where it completely burns the skin off, Arnold's skin off, and it's just the skeleton that's attacking them. And in those sequences can look a little goofy. I will say a little goofy, but also kind of scary the way that they film it and they show it. But you can tell clearly it's a computer, it's stop motion they're using, and the thing's kind of going after him. There's also a scene where Arnold gets some he gets some skin removed from his face and stuff, and his eyes all messed up, and he's looking in the mirror. That scene looks so fake. Again, I hate to say that because it is an older movie. I try to cut it some slack, but it looks so fake when he's like you can just tell it's an animatronic. And I remember that from when I watched it a few years ago, thinking, oh my God, that just doesn't look good. And it still doesn't look good now. So yeah, you can just tell, just the way they filmed it, it looks so fake. It just looks straight up like a robot, like a wax figure or something looking in the mirror, is kind of moving his head around. And then they change angles and stuff, and then it looks like Arnold, and then they'll switch it to him looking straight in the mirror, and then it just looks so incredibly fake. So that kind of takes me out of it. Just a little bit. I feel like there was a better way to do that, and I need to watch like a making of or something to figure out exactly how they did that. But jump ahead 7 years to Terminator 2, and they show the T-800s and they look real. I feel like that's more practical, and they utilize more practical effects to make it look more realistic in Terminator 2. And I just wish they did that in the original Terminator, because I think that they tried to use some computer effects that didn't work the best. So that's really the only thing I can say about it. That, and the little bit of the forced romance with Sarah Connor and Kyle Reese. But other than that, guys, this movie blew me away again. I love this movie. I could definitely see a future where I love this more than the second Terminator, because I'm at the very beginning of my love for this movie, and I've loved Terminator 2 my entire life. So I don't know, guys. It's such a great movie. I know you guys know that, and I know you're probably saying, of course, Ken, I've seen this movie like 100 times. I can't believe you're just now getting to it. And again, it wasn't my first time watch. I've seen it before, but I just watched it very recently. So I love Terminator, guys. I just wanted y'all to know. So let me know in the comment section below, what did you think of Terminator? What do you think of Terminator? Is it one of your favorite science fiction films? Are you in the minority opinion where, because most people will say that Terminator 2 is better. They will say that. Most people will say that. Are you in the minority opinion that thinks that the first Terminator is better? Do you enjoy watching it more because it's more like a straightforward slasher science fiction film? Let me know in that comment section below. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, turn on those bell notifications for all future videos. And guys, I'm going to be reviewing and talking about tons more 1984 films for the month of March. So if you want to follow along with me, definitely watch some 1984 films. You want to tag me in some posts on Instagram, do that too. Let me know in that comment section below. And yeah, guys, I'll see y'all later.